Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. Today we're looking into inflation and deflation. These forces shape economies worldwide, affecting everything from your daily expenses to global financial markets. In this video we'll explore what inflation and deflation are, why they matter, and how they impact our lives. So let's get started. But first, if you enjoyed this video and this kind of content, feel free to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now let's get into it. Begin with inflation. At its core, inflation is a sustained increase in the general price level of goods and services over time. It's like a subtle erosion of your purchasing power. But what causes it? One primary driver of inflation is demand pull inflation. Imagine a scenario where the economy is thriving, unemployment is low, and people have more disposable income. They want to buy more, and businesses scramble to meet this demand. Prices naturally rise when this occurs. Another type of inflation is cost push inflation. This occurs when the cost of producing goods and services increases. Factors like rising wages, increases in the prices of raw material, or geopolitical events can all push up costs, forcing businesses to pass those expenses on to consumers through higher prices. So now that we've discussed a little bit on what inflation is, let's explore its effects. Mild inflation is usually considered a sign of a healthy economy. It encourages spending and investment because people are motivated to use their money before it loses value. However, high inflation can be problematic. It erodes the purchasing power of the consumers, especially those on fixed incomes. Think about everyday items doubling or tripling in price within a short period. This can lead to uncertainty and financial instability. The Federal Reserve, often referred to as the Fed, plays a pivotal role in managing inflation and deflation within the United States. This central bank utilizes a range of tools and policies to influence the money supply and maintain price stability. One is a monetary policy tool. The primary instrument at the disposal of the Federal Reserve is monetary policy. It controls the money supply and interest rates to manage inflation and deflation, and here's how it works. Open market operations. The Fed regularly buys or sells government securities in the open market. When it buys securities, it injects money into the economy, encouraging lending and spending, which can help combat deflation. Conversely, when it sells securities, it removes money from circulation, reducing inflationary pressures. The next method are interest rates. The Fed sets the federal funds rate, which is the interest rate at which banks lend to each other overnight. By raising or lowering this rate, the Fed influences the cost of borrowing. When it wants to combat inflation, it may raise interest rates, making borrowing more expensive and reducing spending. Conversely, it can lower rates to stimulate economic activity during deflationary periods. The next are reserve requirements. The Fed mandates that banks hold a certain percentage of their deposits as reserves. By adjusting these reserve requirements, it can influence the amount of money banks can lend. Lowering reserve requirements can encourage banks to lend more, increasing money supply and potentially combating deflation. Next up, we have forward guidance. The Fed communicates its intentions regarding future monetary policy through forward guidance. By providing clarity about future policy changes, it can influence the expectations of consumers and businesses, affecting their spending and investment decisions. We also have quantitative easing. During severe economic crisis, the Fed can implement quantitative easing. This involves purchasing large quantities of financial assets, including longer-term government and private sector securities. This influx of money into the economy aims to lower long-term interest rates, stimulate borrowing and investment, and combat deflationary pressures. And the last tool that the Fed may use is the lender of last resort. In times of financial turmoil, the Fed acts as a lender of last resort. It provides loans to banks and financial institutions to prevent a financial collapse, which can exacerbate deflation. In summary, the Federal Reserve employs a combination of monetary policy tools, reserve requirements, communication strategies, and crisis interventions to manage inflation and deflation. Its goal is to maintain price stability while fostering economic growth. By carefully adjusting these tools, the Fed strives to keep inflation in check and mitigate the harmful effects of deflation, contributing to the overall health of the U.S. economy. Now that we've touched on it a bit, let's switch gears and talk about deflation. Deflation is the persistent decrease in the general price levels of goods and services. It might sound appealing, but it can be a double-edged sword. Deflation often occurs during economic downturns when demand for goods and services plummets. Consumers, expecting even lower prices, delay purchases. This reduction in spending can lead to a vicious cycle of decreased production, lower wages, and higher unemployment. One of the most notable historical examples of deflation is the Great Depression of the 1930s. The severe deflation during that time worsened the economic crisis, making it harder for businesses and individuals to recover. Balancing inflation and deflation is essential for a healthy economy. Central banks aim for a stable inflation rate, typically around 2%, to support economic growth while avoiding the negative effects of both extremes. It is crucial to recognize that inflation and deflation result from a complex interplay of factors, including fiscal policies, monetary policies, consumer behavior, and global events. In conclusion, inflation and deflation are fundamental concepts that shape our economic landscape. By grasping their causes, effects, and management strategies, you're better equipped to make sound financial choices. Thank you for joining me in this in-depth exploration of inflation and deflation. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.